He's giving us a clear understanding. He says they're talking about revivals, amen? And in his day, they were trying to revive the Azusa Street revival, the outpouring of the gifts from 1906, and they were looking for that kind of revival, that there'd be a Pentecostal revival again. And Brother Branham says there hasn't been a revival, amen? There hasn't been a stirring yet. We've had millions and millions, but no revival yet. So what is revival? Revival then is not a crowd. Revival is not a week-long sermons. Revival is not an evangelist in the pulpit. None of that is revival, because Brother Branham, the Pentecostals had all of that, amen? And during those revivals, they would have manifestations, they would have enthusiasm, they would have good preaching, they would have ecstatic worship, but Brother Branham said none of that's a revival yet. Here's what he goes on to say. The bride hasn't had a revival yet. There's been no revival there, no manifestation of God to stir the bride yet. So that means all of those things that through the 50s and 60s they were calling revivals weren't revivals that would stir the bride. And he said there's been no revival there, no manifestation of God to stir the bride yet. See, we're looking for it. It'll take those 7 unknown thunders back there to wake her up again. He will send it. He promised it. Brother Branham now is bringing some clarity to the Pentecostals in that day. And he even begins, and we'll read a quote in a minute, he even has good friends that's saying revival in our time, revival in our time. We'll read that quote next. And he says, but there's been no revival. There's been no revival for the bride. There's been no stirring of the bride. There's been no manifestation of God to wake her up yet. Although there's been all kinds of exciting things take place. Even in Brother Branham's ministry, there was exciting things that took place, but nothing to wake up the bride yet. First and second pull didn't wake her up. It attracted her attention, but didn't wake her up. Amen. There had to come something. And Brother Branham said it'll take those 7 unknown thunders back there to wake her up again. What is those 7 thunders? A revelation of the Word. There's a mystery in the Word that has to come. And when the Word comes, it'll wake her up. That's the revival she's waiting for. Amen. Not a revival of a stirring, not a revival of noise, not a revival of a crowd, not a week-long services. She was waiting for the Word to come back. And when the Word came back, that's what would bring the bride back. The Word is everything, friends.